Today we're going to talk about the F30 versus the E90 reliability. Which one's better? We're going to talk about it now.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Mark with Exotic Car Place. So you're out shopping for a late model used 3 Series BMW, but you're not totally sure which one you want, the E90 series or the F30 series, which is the latest. Well, we're going to talk about which one's more reliable. We're going to share some of the specific models which have real reliability concerns and other ones that are safer bets in the long run. So let's start with the older car first, the E90 cars. Now there's the E90, which is the sedan, E91, which is the wagon, E92, which is the coupe, and E93, which is the cabriolet. And there's various different engine configurations you can get with that car. You can get a 318, a 320, 323, 325, 328, 330, 335, 335 IS, and the M3, and as well the M3 GTS. A lot of different models within the E90 series. Within those series, there's a variation as well of 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder engines, inline 6s, turbocharged 6-cylinder engines, V8s, and the like, as well as a whole host of diesel engines as well. So let's start with the inline 6-cylinder engine, the most popular, normally aspirated engine in the E90 series. We won't cover every engine configuration, but what we do, we'll talk about the highlight ones, the popular models. And the E90 with the inline 6-cylinder engine, for example, the N52, is known as one of the most popular and one of the most reliable engine setups ever known for BMW. Silky smooth powertrain, inline 6, very smooth, very powerful, sounds great as well. Now the N52 is arguably one of the most reliable BMW engines aside from cooling system woes, things like radiators and water pumps, plastic thermostats, plastic valve covers, things like that could and would leak on different occasions. Outside of that, they were pretty robust engines. They could last 200,000 kilometers and way beyond easily. As a matter of fact, more like 200,000 miles was not inconceivable. You would find in cars like the 323, 325, 328, and the early 330s. With that, these cars were produced from 2005 to about 2011. The 4-cylinder engines weren't too bad either in that generation. Now where things got a little dodgy in terms of reliability was in the 335i and the 335is. The 335i is where all of a sudden BMW started in 2007, was the first model year. They put twin turbos onto a 3-liter inline 6 engine and they called it the N54. Well, the N54 was plagued with lots of problems out of the gate. And I think a lot of it was really just a lack of R&D and proper development. Quality control possibly amiss there as well, but they had problems like the high pressure fuel pump, leak down injectors, leaks from oil and antifreeze. They had problems with racegate rattle and turbochargers failing. There was a lot of issues with those N54s. Yes, if you work some of those details out, what you had underneath, the structural part of the engine, the internals, were forged and they were very strong. It was a lot of the other parts. Now, those were really one of the worst and most unreliable BMWs of all time, next to, say, the S85 V10 engine from the old M5. As well, in the E90, you had the M3, which utilized the S65, a shortened up version of the S85, which was the notoriously unreliable 507 horsepower V10 engine that they shoehorned into the M5. The V8 version in the M3 was just 2 cylinders chopped off, so it still had a lot of the same problems that were plagued in the standard M5. Some of those things were idle actuators, rod bearings were a little weak because of tight tolerance as well. The M3 definitely had some issues. Overall, a very sturdy car, well built otherwise, but it had some weaknesses there too. So again, the E90 series certainly had its share of reliability issues. Let's not forget on the diesel side, the N47. Notoriously unreliable. Why? Because timing chains coming apart because of chain guides crumbling, allowing it to skip cogs, piston and valve, causing it a catastrophic failure. That N47 was a really bad engine for a long time. It drove well, it gave great fuel economy. A lot of people loved it, but sadly enough, it was a very expensive experience and unfortunately suffered a similar demise in many cases. Not to mention it had sticky wastegate springs which caused poor performance as well. So then we talk about the F30. And we want to compare which one do you think is actually more reliable. Well, this is more of a complex question because there's some versions that are more reliable and there's other versions that are less reliable. So the F30 as well had several different variations. The F30 itself was a sedan. The F31 was the sport touring. The F34 was the Gran Turismo. And the F35 was a Chinese-only market car with a longer wheelbase than most of the other versions. Now, a place where I would say the F30 shines over the E90 is now the last year of the E90, which was 2010, all of a sudden they changed that N54 turbocharged engine into a single turbo engine, revised the whole configuration, changed a bunch of things, worked out some of the flaws, and they created a new engine called the N55, which was a single turbocharged engine that was shoehorned in the last model year of the E90. Well, that engine carried through into the F30 as a turbocharged engine as well in the F30. And by this time, it was more reliable, of course, than the majority of the N54 engines that you saw in the early model years of the E90s. As well, the much more improved, much more powerful, and ultimately more exciting engine, the B58, came in 2015. And did you know that it's considered good enough to go in the new Toyota Supra as well as some of the new Lexus IS cars? Now here's where things get kind of interesting. So in the F30, there's several different variations of engines as well. They have models like the 316, 318, 320, 328, 330, 335, and later on they came out with the 340, which is the one that had the B58 engine in it. There's also a 330e, which is basically a plug-in hybrid. So there was a lot of different options in the F30, which of course carries through right to the current model year. Now finally in 2019, BMW has released the brand new 3 Series. But for now, we'll talk about more or less the latest and the greatest up to the F30. Now in 2011 to 2015, for example, in the 328, they used, all of a sudden, they got rid of that silky smooth inline 6 and they shoehorned a little 4-cylinder 2-liter engine with turbo strap to it. They put that in there in replacement of the inline 6. Now this car produced a little more power, got better fuel economy, but sadly enough, even though there's a lot of lovers of that, the reliability of the N20 engine was considered subpar because timing chain issues. Turns out I even know somebody with an N20 engine in one of their late model BMWs, and it too has a rattling noise. So they too also have to be dealing with a timing chain problem. This was very prevalent in the N20 engines. If they stayed tight and stayed together, they were a great engine that was very economical. Sadly enough, the timing chain was a problem. Another thing to consider when buying these cars is what can add to the unreliability is the fact that previous owners are not changing oil often enough. Because of the extended service intervals of BMW, long oil change intervals can lead to premature failing. If you're talking about, for example, timing chain issues and you've got timing chain tensioners or other things that rely on that oiling to operate properly, then you might be let down because these extended intervals create dirty environments and bad oil to sit and remain in the engine. So again, as I said, the 335 was another model. That 335 utilized the N55, which was carried through, which was considered a very reliable engine, and the B58 in the 340, which is a very, very reliable engine, showing to be very, very robust. Now, also some other changes. The life cycle impulse LCI change came in 2015 in the F30, which added some extra things. It did some LED headlights, changed the taillights around a little bit. There were some subtle changes cosmetically. And also in 2015 is when they changed from the N47 diesel, all of a sudden they put in the B47 diesel, which was vastly improved and so far doesn't seem to have any of the same timing chain issues that you found in the N47. So it seems like 2015 is the car, the model that you want to get. Because also in 2015 is when the 340 came out. So 2015 is that unique, impressive year. That's the model year that you're really looking for. It gives you some great new engine setups. So watch for that 2015 model year. As well on the E90, what you want to watch for is a 2009 and later. That is also the LCI updates. It has creases in the hood, improved front dam, wider kidney grills, and a whole host of other little cosmetic changes. Some of the iDrive and some of the other bits and pieces internally as well are subtly changed. And overall, the LCI in the 2009 and the 2015s are the model years you're looking for both reliability as well as some of the cosmetic improvements. So overall, which one is more reliable? Well, it really boils down to where your flavor lies. If you want the big, beefy, turbocharged 6-cylinder engines, I would say stay with the F30. Why? Because that utilizes the N55, which we already know is revised and vastly improved upon the previous generation. So if you like the Turbo 6, stay with the F30 as well. If you waited to 2015, you have the 340. So you either have the B58 or the N55. So you have a good, sturdy, turbocharged 6-cylinder engine, which already has a lot of proof behind the pudding. Now, on the other hand, if you're looking for mid-model stuff, for example, a 328, this is where I would say go back to the E90. If you're on the cusp and you're looking, well, you have money for either or, I would say, in my opinion, for a 328 or a 330, get back into the E90 because you get the silky smooth inline sixes that are not only more reliable, but they're more enjoyable to drive. Less going on as well, and less likely for you to suffer a broken heart over a catastrophic engine failure. And then if we're talking about diesel engines, again, I'm going to have to steer you to the F30 because that's all of a sudden when they had the B47. So again, in 2015, go with the B47. In the F30, you're going to have a more reliable small turbo diesel engine versus the E90 version with the N47. Stay away from the E90 320Ds. As well in the E90, if you're looking for reliability, the M3 is not your game. So again, stay away from the E90 and E92 M3s. They are not reliable. They're a lot of fun. They're arguably one of the best M3 cars ever produced because of its magnificent V8 engine and the chances and the likeliness that you'll never see an engine of that size again going into an M3 makes it very unique and in some cases desirable. However, for reliability's sake, stay away from the M3 and the E90 as well. Again, as always, guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you give it a like, thumbs up. Don't forget to share it with your friends, social media, and as well, hit that subscribe button down there. Don't forget to do that, as well as that little notification bell lets you know when one of my next great videos is out. Oh, and by the way, did you know I have a second channel? It's my personal vlog. It's a place where I can share my experiences and my passions for life, for cars, all of that. As a family guy, I share with you the fact that a family man with 4 kids and a wife can actually enjoy fancy cars, fun cars, exotics, and also the things that you do around cars. Make sure you check out that other channel. Don't forget to subscribe to that one as well. Got a great video coming up real soon there too. So thanks again, everybody. I hope to see you on the next one. Catch you soon. Bye-bye.